You're listening to the Love Your Neighbor podcast.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the Links podcast. My name is John and get to host this podcast on behalf of Brandon Wellness. We're a nonprofit organization and our goal is to build and invest in the health and wellness of our community. And a community, it's just really people. I mean, that's one thing we've learned in these conversations is that community is just people and relationships. And so it's my privilege to welcome Jason Albertson to the Links podcast. Jason, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, man.
It's good to be here.
But I appreciate you being here. And I just need to know the people that are listening. There's really two groups of people that are listening. So there's the people who have always lived in Brandon and they know everybody in Brandon. And then there's this other group of people who have just moved here in the last couple of years.
Yep.
And they have no idea. So as you're talking to this group, just remember that there's some people that are watching because they heard you were going to be on here.
Great.
And then there's some people that are like, who is Jason?
Right.
So why don't you just kind of explain to all of us kind of your story, how you got to Brandon, why you've stayed. You guys have some exciting news recently.
Yes. So.
Well,
I think my parents are Monty and Lana Albertson moved us to Brandon in like 1992, I believe.
Okay.
So I could start kindergarten here. And I've never left.
Okay.
So Dad has a business in town, just outside of town.
Okay.
And I currently work for him. So that's been the story. I've pretty much been in Brandon my whole life, starting at 4. So I am one of those people that's been here from the beginning. And yes, I don't know everybody, but I know a lot of people in Brandon, which is awesome.
And your dad's business is then
Monty's Wood Shop.
Monty's Wood Shop.
Yep.
Okay. So what kind of business do you do there? What kind of woodwork do you do?
Well, it started as a woodworking business, but it's transitioned into much more. We do laser engraving, so corporate gifts.
Okay.
We do sandblasting, so we do custom monuments, memorials, landscape rocks, things like that. So it's evolved much more than just woodworking, but that is still part of custom building things that we still do that as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Cool. So custom building, like you have people come to you with ideas.
Correct.
And then you bring those ideas to life.
Correct. So we do that. And like if you've ever been out to Bethany Meadows, we made all of the furniture for that new wing when they did that.
Oh, wow.
So like the wardrobes and the headboards and nightstands, that type of stuff as well.
Wow.
So yeah, we're very niche thing. Dad always said, if you can come to us with an idea, we can probably make it happen. So yeah, it's fun.
Interesting. And then you work with your dad, and then now more recently you're also involved in some other things. Tell us a little bit about kind of what your family. So your dad, but tell us a little bit about your family. Yep.
So family, my wife Casey and our 4 kids. We just had a new one. He's 2 weeks old. So we have a 9-year-old. Well, 9 this week. A 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn.
Awesome. We've
been married for 10 years. Just a month ago. So kind of a milestone for us.
Okay.
She's from the Brandon area as well. So Brandon, between the two of us, Brandon was where we were going to be.
Nice.
So
we just had Becky Blue was a recent guest.
Yeah.
And she was saying she believes, she doesn't know, but she thinks she's the first person to have all 4 of her kids marry other Brandon kids.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, well that
could be.
I can't verify that, but if that's what you think, but we know we've got at least one other Brandon couple here.
Right. One other one, yep.
One other one at least. So graduate, when did you graduate from Brandon?
Graduated in 2006.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Okay. Were you guys classmates? You and your wife classmates?
She's a year younger than me.
Okay.
We really weren't friends or didn't associate at all in our later school years of life, but growing up, her mom was actually my daycare provider. So when my parents moved me here, I went to her mom's daycare.
Okay.
We knew each other then, got through daycare, didn't really hang out through school. She went to USF, I went to SDSU, came back. I came for a homecoming game. She came back for a homecoming game. Our parents are friends. So we naturally sat with our parents at that game.
Gotcha.
And then we just kind of started hanging out again after that.
Cool.
which her mom would love the shout out because I think her mom was the one that was kind of instigating some of this in the back scenes.
I got you. See, I have 2 teenage boys.
Yeah.
I think arranged marriages are really like a thing that needs to come back. I think it's really important that arranged marriages become socially acceptable again.
Yeah.
And maybe they will. I don't know. This gives me hope.
Arranged or suggested, you know?
Well, however you want to say
okay.
it. Like, I think you have to give the illusion to your children.
Yes.
This is who we would love for you.
Right.
To be with. But
so you just need to package it appropriately. So that's
exactly.
your homework.
That's what I need is some help.
Yeah.
My kids may never get married. They might be both bachelors their entire life. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Good. So SDSU, what did you study at SDSU? What was
I went to SDSU for civil engineering.
Okay.
My parents will not be glad about this, but I did not fulfill that. I had a semester left, came back, started working for Dad, worked out okay. I think they're over it now. It's all right. But it is what it is. We all have our path, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still very thankful for my experiences up there and the people that I met and all of that. But
yeah. Well, great. So how about being a dad? I mean, you kind of went from husband to dad. I mean, what's that been like?
Awesome. Grew up with siblings. My wife grew up with siblings. Knew we were going to have kids. That was family was always part of the plan. We'd been married for just over a year and our daughter was born, and being a dad is awesome. I love to be involved in their stuff. I coach my daughter in softball. I coach my son in basketball.
Okay.
So, and my dad did that for me, and I just feel like I enjoyed him being there. I think it's important to be involved in your kids and like their sporting stuff, their school stuff. And that's part of what the community of Brandon is awesome is I feel like there is a very strong parent involvement in what their children are doing. Yeah. And that builds that community.
Right.
Because we're there. We're all around each other. You know, you start going to these things, you see the same parents that you're there every time with. The kids become friends, you become friends. And I mean, that just locks everything in.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. That's great. So do you have like some of your siblings? Are they around the area?
No, my siblings actually both live in Rochester, Minnesota.
Okay.
So they moved out there, electrical engineers from SDSU.
Okay.
Worked for IBM, just recently transitioned to working for a different company. But yeah, so they're not here. We still see them. They got nieces and nephews, and so we go see them. But they come here more often because Grandpa and Grandma are here. But yeah, that's where the sibling thing is.
Cool. Well, cool. Well, I want you to talk a little bit about. You're also now you are a co-owner,
correct,
of the Double D Saloon.
Yes.
Okay. To me, buying a bar is kind of like buying a zoo. Like, what was talk to me about the lead up to that, and right up to the moment where you thought, "Yep, we're doing it."
Yeah.
What was that like?
I've always been interested in real estate. So we own some rental houses and all that. Okay. I like business. I like the numbers behind business. Had looked into the bar before I was approached the second time about it, kind of just kicking things around, seeing what's out there, what could we do. The co-owner, which friend of mine, Paul Odie, rode the bus with him all through school.
Okay.
Called me one day and just said, "Hey, did you hear the Double D is for sale in Brandon?" And I said, "Yeah, actually I did. I actually have thought about it. It's been on my mind." And he said, "Well, we're going to buy it." And I said, "Okay, entertain me on how we're going to do this." And
when he said we, who is he? Was he saying?
Me and him. We're doing this together. And I'm not really one to shy away from things. So I said, "Hey, let's take the steps on doing this." And we met with Mark Fonder and kind of came up with a game plan, and he was super awesome to work with. Okay. I mean, Mark Fonder, I know people in Brandon know him because he had a presence there years ago, and the transition was well. It's been good. It's adult daycare for sure. I mean, we don't spend a lot of time there. Our staff are there, and we kind of do the behind the scenes things on that. But yeah, it's been fun. I mean, everything has ups and downs. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's a job or owning something else. And
so you're not the hands-on behind the bar pulling the every week, every night?
No, one of my things I tell people, and I don't know if this is good or bad to say, but we've owned the bar for 3.5 years, and I've never made anybody a drink at the bar, which is okay. Now, my wife, she came from a serving background. That's what she did, and so she has worked some at the bar, but I don't know that that's my forte.
Okay.
I'm more of a social person. I'm going to be on the other side of the bar probably.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, I didn't know how that worked, because I think, when we moved to Brandon, we got very, we would set up, tear down on Sunday mornings, and then we wanted to go watch football. My kids wanted to watch football.
Yep.
So we would go to tailgaters, and tailgaters just became our home away from home.
Yeah.
Every Sunday we'd go eat, watch football, and now it's like our extended family. Like those are our people.
Yeah.
So I get, like, in our world, in our community, those kind of places are important because it's where people let their guard down and they don't have to worry about doing the dishes.
Right.
They don't have to clean up.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you for providing that. I mean, that's a great service to the community.
Yeah, it's fun. And we were the ones that brought back kind of the Brandon street dance. Hadn't been around for a lot of years. And we had this is our 3rd year that we just did that. And I think the community's been great. They love it. It's something to do, get out in the fall. It is chaos for us. It's a lot of planning, but it's a good time. So
interesting. I meet a lot of people that are new to town.
Yeah.
That'll come to our church. And this couple moved here from Minnesota, and they'd only been in town for like 2 weeks. And they're like, we can't wait for the Brandon street dance. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Go for it. Awesome. It's on our anniversary weekend. My wife and I's anniversary weekend. So our house is actually, where we live is right adjacent to the Odie's property on the Creekside Circle there.
Okay.
So my kids grew up, when we moved here, they'd see the Odie's out playing kickball.
Yeah.
And so one day my son's like, I want to go play with them.
Run down the hill.
They did. So we just ran out the back door, and it was really fun. So kind of, my son got to cut grass a few times for him. So it was kind of fun to see that develop.
Right.
And so it's fun to see them, not only stick around, but really invest and make Brandon, better place.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Cool. Appreciate you, man. Well, you've kind of already mentioned this. What would you say to somebody that's new to Brandon, that's just moving here? What would you say is important for somebody that's not a Brandon person to know about Brandon? Because that was the question I asked when I moved here. Is like, what do I need to know about Brandon? What would you say to somebody that's new, somebody that comes in that, we just moved here? What do people need to know about Brandon that they might not otherwise get anywhere else other than from you?
Yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of people that come to Brandon because they hear about the school district and the community and Brandon is very sought after. And I think that's great. I like that. And that is because of the people. Like you said earlier, like a community is made up of because of the people that are there. And so my thing is, if you're going to come to Brandon and you want to get the most out of Brandon, what you need to do is you need to be committed to Brandon. Be a part of Brandon, right? Give some of your time, be involved in something, because you're only going to get as much out of your community as you're willing to put in.
Right. That's good.
So that's my biggest thing is, if you want to get to know Brandon, get involved. And it doesn't have to be doing something all the time, but just go out. If there's an event, go out to the food trucks on Wednesday at the, Brandon Lutheran Church has, or go down to the ballpark if there's some games. Even if your kids aren't involved in sports, just go watch and check out the atmosphere. And once you start to absorb that, you're really going to understand what Brandon is.
Yeah.
But if you stay home and you just take your kids to and from school, you're not going to experience that. So
that's great. That's a great insight. I think that's good advice for anybody even if you've been here for a while.
Yeah.
To get involved and be a part. So, well, I tell you what, this has been good. Is there anything coming up over the winter? Is there anything coming up that you're getting into that you'd want to let people know about at the Double D or anywhere?
No, I don't. Nothing really on my mind. Holidays are coming. People are going to be busy. They can just focus on them, get their shopping done, and get ready for some family time.
Cool.
So,
all right. Well, I appreciate you being here, Jason. Thanks for coming, and I'm looking forward to coming down and seeing you, man.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast. The purpose of the Love Your Neighbor podcast is to build community one conversation at a time. You can help us build that community by sharing the podcast on your social media channels and rating our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. Another way is to let us know of any neighbors who have a story. Go Lynx!